Hey guys, how are you? I hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing a movie review. This movie is a dark comedy from Denmark, Danish language English subs, released in 1999, directed by Lasse Spang Olsen, and this movie is called In China They Eat Dogs. So In China They Eat Dogs is about Arvind. Arvind is working in a bank. He has a girlfriend named Hannah who he doesn't really get along with now because they're having problems, but one morning when he gets to work there is a robber who is going to steal the money, and he foils this robbery by hitting the robber over the head with a squash racket. So he's hailed as a hero, and then one evening he gets a knock on the door. He opens the door and it's the robber's wife, and the robber's wife is distraught. She says, "Why did you stop this robbery? If he was successful it would have made a new life for us. We're really struggling with money." So Arvind is a little bit downbeat about this. He's a little bit regretful about stopping this robbery because he's ultimately put their lives in turmoil. So the morning that Hannah actually leaves Arvind, Arvind starts to believe that maybe this happened because of what he's done. So he's trying to correct the wrongs, he's trying to clear his conscience, and to do that he's going to team up with his psychotic brother named Harold and some chefs that work at Harold's kitchen, and they're going to rob a van. Now this van is carrying a lot of money. The idea is to rob the van, give the money to this wife, and it's going to make things all better, but it doesn't do that because basically what happens is a comedy of errors that leads to deeper consequences and ultimately goes up to a climax with some Serbian gangsters. So it all leads up to a lot of insanity, and what happens at that point on is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on In China They Eat Dogs. As far as Danish cinema is concerned, this movie is really well known, and it actually took me a long time to finally go and see this film. I don't know why. I just kept skipping over it, and I just didn't have any real interest in it. Although it is written by Anders Thomas Jensen, although Danish comedy, sort of dark comedies are very good, I just kept overlooking it. I finally saw it, and I can say that I'm disappointed that it's taken me this long to see it, because not only is this a very pitch black comedy, it is also very disturbing, and it also makes you think a lot as well. So to start off with, cinematography was excellent. It actually reminded me of Nicholas Winding Refn's The Pusher trilogy, where it captures the seedy underbelly of Copenhagen very well, and has a cheaper sort of budget, but the budget is utilised to full perfection because it helps contribute the atmosphere that this director wants. So it's a sign of a very good director that he can spin the lack of budget into his own positivity. So I thought that it had a griminess. All the characters were despicable. It actually felt like you're dealing with gangsters, and when the situation just gets hopelessly out of control, it is both very entertaining and very funny at the same time. Now Anders Thomas Jensen wrote this film, and I'm a big fan of him as a director and as a writer. Now he's just as good at directing as he is at writing, and the reason why I like him so much is that this is really his element, basically writing and directing in black comedy, because he understands black comedy. He understands how to make likeable characters that are doing despicable things. So although you can absorb into their situation, you can befriend these people, but when they're doing horrible things, you're condoning it to the point of wanting to see them do other things. So it makes you feel very regretful and very bad about feeling these things, and that's ultimately the essence and the heart of what dark comedies are. So it is superbly well written. I thought the dialogue was absolutely fantastic. It was very witty. There were some moments that had me laughing out loud, especially a moment involving a band that I'm not going to give away, but it was both shocking and very, very funny at the same time. You've got the pacing, which is absolutely fantastic. I like the action scenes were very well choreographed, and it was actually thrilling in some areas too. So it is a movie with a wide range of genres all put into one to make a very rewarding experience. I thought the acting from Kim Bodnia, who plays the Harold, who is a psychotic individual, I thought he was great. He had likability to him, but he just flies off the deep end at every given opportunity. He has no conscience, he has no compassion for his fellow man, and what he does is actually funny the way he reacts. He reacts so coldly, but it's done in a very comedic way. So although everything that's happening is deeply disturbing, it's still elevated to the point of being lighthearted. So it's, as I said, it's everything that a dark comedy should be, where it's got a fine blend of comedy and it's got a fine blend of disturbing element. It combines it, and that's ultimately, as I said, the essence of what a black comedy should be. So the acting from Nicola Likaus and a host of other Danish actors was all fantastic. The chemistry between these friends who were basically doing these robberies was fantastic. I thought the gangsters from Serbia were great as well, very menacing, and you felt that it was just a comedy of errors. It actually felt like a Pulp Fiction style of film, Quentin Tarantino, where you've got a situation that should be simple, but it's complicated because of mistakes and the consequences of those mistakes, and it just keeps on getting worse and worse, and it snowballs into a very thrilling finale, which is what China, they eat dogs. It's exactly what it does. I thought the finale was over the top, insane, and it matched the overall mood. So it never really goes out of the realms of reality to the point where it's getting ridiculous. It does rein itself in. It does threaten to boil over into the point of ridiculousness, but it does keep that very entertaining aspect that the movie has. But the thing I liked about it even more was that it does pose a very real message. And I think the title really sums it up perfectly. In China, they eat dogs. Now, for Westerns, we see eating dogs as wrong, and that it's cruel, and that it's all these kind of things. But in China, they eat dogs, and that is the norm. And so, and I'm not saying all of China eat dogs, but there are areas in China where they eat dogs, that it is a normal thing to them, so it's a right thing to them. It's not against the law, so what they're doing is not necessarily wrong, but we view it as wrong because we're from a different culture. And I thought that really summed the film up perfectly, is that these criminals were doing horrible things, but in their world, it was the right thing to do. So you've got the clash of cultures, the clash of worlds coming together, and I thought it was a very interesting take, very philosophical take that I was expecting from Ernest Thomas Jensen. You just don't get an empty experience with this guy. You always get something a little bit extra, and I thought the philosophical approach of basically denouncing things that are normal in that particular world, I thought the conflicting sort of differences and the conflicting laws, you know, the laws of gangsters, if you do something wrong by someone, you're going to get revenge, and all this kind of stuff. In the other world, in our world, that is wrong. But in their world, it's the way of living, which is ultimately what the title is all about. As I said, in China, they eat dogs, and you know, we see that as bad. And we see other cultures where we see that as against what we believe in. So is that ultimately the wrong thing, or you know, are they right? And so you've got that element where you think to yourself, okay, well, different worlds, different rules, and ultimately the question of are you right is always in a very grey area. So that was something that really provided a lot of depth to this film, and that's the reason why I thought it was as great as it was. And you know, the fact that this is a 1999 film, it does showcase Denmark's talent. You know, it wasn't until very recently where, you know, Scandinavian cinema just had a complete boom, where it introduced us to some absolutely fantastic films. The beauty of Scandinavian cinema is that they've never really stopped contributing to great cinema. Is that, you know, it's just recently that it's just got a name for itself, but it's all along it's been very good. And in China, They Eat Dogs is no different. I thought this was a very thought-provoking, very, very funny dark comedy, has shocking moments of violence that is complemented very well by very dark humour, and it's got that philosophical approach that makes it definitely worth viewing if you are a fan of this type of cinema. So overall, for In China They Eat Dogs, I'm going to give it 4 stars. Go out there and see it. Alright guys, that's my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later. Bye.